cases before the federal courts right now are going to make history, but who can keep track? Also, who wants to? That's why I'm here. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm Brian, and this is the morning report for the federal courts for August 26th, 2025. Please double tap your screen, drop a comment, and try to watch at least a minute when it comes up in the FYP. It really does help. Today, I have an update on Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and if you can make it to the end, I will be answering the question on everybody's mind today: can the president ban flag burning? So hang around for that. All right, let's get into it. First, I'm going to give you a quick update on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Remember that we have two different federal cases here. We have a civil case that's based in Maryland, that's from back in March, which is what I'm mostly going to be focused on today. We also have a criminal case based in Tennessee. So Mr. Garcia was ordered to show up at immigration in Baltimore yesterday to check in, and as soon as he walked in, they detained him, which wasn't a big surprise. His lawyers were ready, and they requested an emergency hearing with the judge in the civil case, the Maryland judge. A couple interesting things happened in that meeting. First, the judge questioned the DOJ about pressuring Mr. Garcia to take a plea deal in his criminal case in Tennessee in exchange for a more convenient deportation location. The DOJ has offered him to be deported to Costa Rica if he'd plead guilty to criminal charges in Tennessee, and because he didn't accept, they're planning to deport him to Uganda instead. Now, the judge was not happy about this. She seemed very concerned that the DOJ was either bribing Mr. Garcia to take a plea or blackmailing him if he didn't, and she clearly plans to discuss this further. So that's the first thing. Second was that the judge issued an oral ruling that Mr. Garcia was to remain in the U.S. for at least the next couple of days while she sorts out the next couple moves, which seems reasonable. The problem is that the last time this happened with a removable plaintiff in D.C. Circuit or District Court, the DOJ grabbed the person in question and just deported them anyway, and said, oh, we didn't think an oral ruling was binding, which, to be clear, no attorney has ever thought a spoken order from a judge was not binding. So the judge made the DOJ attorney in this case agree on the record that this oral ruling was sufficient for them to follow, and they agreed that under no circumstances would Mr. Garcia be removed prior to the next hearing. She even asked if she needed to basically stop everything and print up a written order, and they said no. So that's the civil case. Now, in the criminal case, there's also some back and forth going on. The DOJ has requested some more time to respond to certain questions from the court. Mr. Abrego Garcia's attorneys have accused the DOJ of stalling so they can essentially deport him before he has a chance to actually sort out the criminal charges. I'm sure there will be more from this today. We're in a holding pattern for the moment, though. Okay, we have one more round in the Global Health Council case. Quick version. The government didn't want to pay these people. The lower court said they had to. A 3-judge appeals panel said that they didn't have to, but then a bigger panel of judges said they were going to take a second look at that decision. And in the meantime, the government had to keep paying. So there's going to be another big Court of Appeals hearing coming up in September, and the government tried one more time in district court to get out of paying between now and then. And the government said there wasn't enough time to get all of these payments out the door before the hearing in September. So the district court should just let them hold out for a bit. The problem is that before all of this mess, months ago, the government was getting behind on payments. And the district court judge was like, do I need to get angry here? Like, is this about to become a problem? Are you going to get all of these payments out on time? And the government was like, you do not have to hold us in contempt. We can totally make these payments before September. Not a problem. So the judge released a pretty short order yesterday, and it was just sort of a little duck in the face. Sorry, guys, you can't suddenly argue that you don't have enough time when you already used the opposite argument months ago to get out of trouble. No. So that's a big negatory on that motion. Okay, next, I'm going to run you through a case that just had some minor filings this week or yesterday, but it's a case we haven't heard from yet, and I want to run you through it real quick just so you know about it. So RFK Human Rights, not RFK Jr., is an organization named after Bobby Kennedy, who, if you didn't know, is RFK Jr.'s dad. It's a global human rights organization. Now, RFK Human Rights v. State Department is a case about the agreement that the federal government made with the Salvadoran government to house prisoners at the CCOT prison. I was really looking forward to discovery in this case because I wanted to know more about that agreement. Remember when this came out? I don't know about you, but I really wanted to know, like, what was the agreement? And I thought this is how we were going to find out. Well, the court has agreed to allow a lot of stuff to be filed under seal, which means we don't get to see it, but not everything. So I went ahead and put one of the filings into my shared documents under immigration and CCOT cases. I thought you guys might want to take a look. It does tell you some of the facts about the deal. It's heavily redacted, but there's still some good information in it between the redactions. Or you can also just Google the case number, 25 CV-01774. Look up the court listener link, and you can look at the whole docket. But I think it's important to know that this case is even going on. I don't think we hear a lot about this one, and I think it's important. All right, last case is an older one, but one I think you're going to want to hear about. A lot of questions have been directed at me in the last day or so about this. I think this might help out. In Texas v. Johnson in 1989, and then again, and more famously, in United States v. Eichman 1 year later, the Supreme Court repeatedly stated that the burning of a U.S. flag is protected by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, these opinions are very clear about something. These were people who were charged only with destruction or desecration of a flag, nothing else. So this is only when a person is burning their own flag and the fire is somewhere legal. Stealing a flag or setting a flag on fire somewhere can still be illegal if the fire is illegal. Injuring someone with a fire could be illegal, but the act of burning a U.S. flag on its own is not. That is why, if you noticed, the gentleman detained in Lafayette Square yesterday after setting a flag on fire was charged with setting a fire in a public park, not with desecration of a flag, despite the new executive order. Interestingly, the Eichman case also determined that the U.S. has a right to defend the trademark in the flag in the same way anyone can defend a mark. So laws that ban, for example, the use of a flag in a beer commercial or sewn into the shape of a bikini, perfectly legal, just like anyone else defending use of a trademark. But that said, both Eichman and Johnson were split decisions and hot ones. President Bush tried to get a movement together to pass a constitutional amendment to prevent flag burning, but it never caught enough steam. Justice Stevens said that these cases would allow someone to spray paint graffiti on the Washington Monument. Obviously, that was a little bit of hyperbole because these cases only allowed you to burn your own flag, and unless someone owns their own Washington Monument, It should be noted that this was decided by a very different court, and it is possible that members of this administration are trying to get Eichman in front of the Roberts Court to see if it will be overturned by this executive order, or with this executive order. So be prepared for that possibility. All right, that is your Tuesday morning report on the past day in federal courts. Again, if you can leave a comment, get this out there, I would really appreciate it. If you know somebody who'd like this, share it with them. Otherwise, keep watching, everybody. I'll keep making them. Have a great Tuesday. Bye, everybody.